On our last episode with the Wilhites, we found out that Dave and Sherry had very different views on cash and credit. Dave honestly didn't know there was another way. Now they're about ready to start their lives together, and they have some serious differences in one of the toughest issues that many couples face. We laughed a lot and very much enjoyed their candor on how they moved through this challenging time together. Here's part 2 of the Wilhites. We hope you enjoy it. Go ahead.
So anyway, I remember this conversation. We were driving somewhere, and the issue of credit came up. And I don't remember.
So early on. So we're not talking like 10 years in. You're talking maybe the first year, maybe?
Right.
Okay.
Just before or just after we were married. I don't remember which.
Okay.
Do you remember?
She's fuming
No,
over
I'm
here.
not really sure.
I can't believe you can't remember the date.
Yeah.
It was December 17th.
Right.
It was right before.
At 7:02 p.m. and 30 seconds.
We had just passed the 131 mile marker.
Right. Yeah. We were driving, and we start talking about money and credit, and she's like, yeah, no more credit. We got to stop buying.
Did you slam on the brakes?
And, yeah. Well,
My
I
head
remember.
bounced off the windshield. Because in Michigan, you didn't have to wear seatbelts at the time.
the airbag comes out.
Right.
You hit the bag so hard.
I remember my question to her was, how do people get things?
Oh my, that is brilliant.
And because that was
How you did it. That's the only way you knew.
context. That was the only context I knew. And I probably knew people that bought cars with cash, but I didn't know that.
And they were weird.
Right.
If you'd have known them.
I mean, the concept of saving $15,000 or $20,000 at the time just seemed
That was like a year and a half of your dad's salary.
right. It was, not a year.
I know.
But,
I'm joking.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but
No.
that was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, and I just didn't know that was a real thing.
And we're not saying that's exactly right or wrong, because everybody has to make their decisions, and credit can be helpful, but that probably blew your mind a little bit.
It did. And, and I had a good job. I mean, for,
Absolutely.
just
You
coming
could have
out of
bought
college.
2 cars and 2 boats.
Right. I mean, I don't mind sharing. You can share it or edit it, whatever. But, at the time right out of college, with a bachelor's degree, and I made $45,000.
Yikes.
Wow. That was good.
2000. This is the year 2000.
Yeah.
And,
That's a lot of money.
But you're coming out with a good, solid, valuable chemistry degree, right? Tough.
Right.
And they needed those. So I get it.
Yeah, the
supply
pharma
and demand,
industry
baby.
was hiring like crazy at the time. I mean, this is kind of a funny story. They offered me like 42 and I accepted. And they called me back like 3 days later and said, hey, we did a market salary study and we bumped your salary to 45. I'm like,
That's great.
best negotiator ever.
Coming from a small town, I know how to negotiate, right?
Right.
It's like-
Do you just look sad during I haven't eaten in weeks. Okay, we'll give you 45.
Right.
You're not paying for my parsonage? Come on.
I know.
Actually, probably both of our dads were sad, excited, but sad because they were probably making that at the time.
Or less.
Yes.
Or similar.
Yeah.
And it was like
Right.
really eye-opening for both of our parents.
But you really weren't ready. You just weren't ready to handle that kind of money.
Well, right.
I'm not saying it a bad
I
way.
only knew one way
Exactly.
of handling money. And this is one thing that, we've talked about is I feel like education on how to have money work for you versus against you was not a thing in our high schools. It wasn't a thing in the college that we went to. I don't know if it is now.
I think it's still not a thing.
It needs to be. It's such a huge barrier, and like you guys have talked about, when you come out of college and you have student loans and a car payment and some credit card debt, you have to have a good job. You can't take a shot on a startup making very little money because you got all this debt.
No,
right?
you're right. You're absolutely right.
And so, for us getting married, it was like, okay, we have to make some decisions on how we're going to handle money.
So Sherry,
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I am gonna do it.
we need the
Yeah,
now to the reality.
because there's excuse me, there's two sides to every story, and I know the whole money thing because my story with my wife, she had credit card debt. I just about lost my you know what.
Yeah.
Right?
Double toothpicks.
Toothpicks. Yeah, exactly. And so the story is very different. I was terrible about it because I was really mean, and I apologize for that. And anything she does bad to me, I always say I deserve it.
And by was, he means still is.
Right. What is
that
it?
why she's
15
not here?
years. Yeah, exactly. We keep her out of this. So can I get a little perspective from your side, how this whole thing unwound and what you saw and what happened? And
Yes. So I'm going to rewind.
we
a little
want you
bit.
guys to actually still be married when you leave, by the way. So
Oh,
we're
we're
going to be
good.
nice.
We'll
We're
edit
good.
you
We
back
just-
together if
We just
something happens.
celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Oh man, that's
So
great.
we're good
That's
to go.
great. Dave's a solid guy. I really do like him. So
He
I
is.
prefer him not to
He's
go
a
through any
keeper.
bad stuff. Okay.
No, I'm going to go back to when he got his job and he got his new apartment. He, and you can edit this out later if you want to.
No,
But his
go
dad,
ahead.
No, we like the juicy stuff.
His dad came in and pretty much pushed him into
I'm pouring some wine over here. I mean,
Pushed
this is an
him into
adult. What do you call
getting
it?
the
Kid show.
apartment that he did.
So dad
So-
helped him.
Yeah. So Dave was making $45,000, and his dad was like, "Hey, that's what I'm making, and I have this, this, and this, and this."
Oh, wow.
And so his dad comes in, and I mean, it's not a conversation. They just fall right into line, like they
always
like
have.
the money, financial. This is what we do. This
You have a
is how-
36-inch tube because you get one for $27 a week.
Yeah.
Right.
This is how you get things. You have a nice job. You need a nice apartment, 2 bedrooms in a nice apartment complex, and your apartment's going to be fully furnished before you get that first paycheck.
That was the scary part
So,
for me personally. and that's-
Immediately,
Stressful
he
living
is
up to that.
starting out with $45,000, and he's already in debt.
I hadn't get started yet. I hadn't no paycheck yet, right? And had fully furnished. Went to whatever Value City,
IKEA, but whatever it was at
Furnished.
that time.
yeah,
And-
furniture and
Art van.
art van probably, in Michigan, and bought couches and
Oh, by the way, the job fell through.
yeah, right.
Because I lived with my parents, I was like, I can't afford to be on my own. So that's the tight one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that.
And that was really hard for me to see that. And his dad is like, you need this, 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 this. And I'm like the angel on the shoulder, like,
So this is
No,
a quick commercial.
you don't need
Parents,
this.
don't do that to your kids. It doesn't need to be like that.
correct.
Well, unless you're buying it for them.
Right.
Like, Dad, you're checking that off the list.
You are so bad, man. Don't do that to your kids. They got to see the value of what they're doing.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So you saw all this, and when you were watching this, was this kind of like slow-mo, just you can't keep your eyes off of it? You kind of like, what is happening? And I don't
Yeah,
mean it
it
in a
was
bad
really
way.
hard for me to watch. And we were already engaged at that point.
were.
Is that right?
Oh, so you were signed up for half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So his dad's like, you can afford twice as much?
Right.
Right.
And we're not beating on the dad because there's like so much you just get passed down that you just automatically.
Yeah, yeah, and and again, I'll throw out there is a cycle. Like my dad handled money better than his parents. That's probably a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But and he was the first of his, maybe still the only. My dad has 3 siblings. He was the only one to go to college.
Wow.
And the first in his family.
Kind of made it out. If you
Right.
But going to college doesn't mean you got to tell anything about money.
Yeah, exactly. No.
It doesn't, right? And
There's some assumptions that go along with I graduated from college.
that's right.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And so, yeah. So,
So-
Sherry was walking into this. With
So
a
you're seeing
very
this
different
happening.
experience.
And got a very different. So what happened? What'd you do? I mean, help me out here. Like, you had to change this. All I know, and if you know me, which you don't, I am a straight shooter.
Oh God, he is.
Yeah, it's. I know it's like a yin yang. It's like good, but it's bad. So when I was talking to him, he was like, "Holy crap!" She whipped me into line. It was painful, but I have like so much gratitude for her for just being this amazing person who kind of showed me a little bit of light.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I know, I'm not
That's
kidding.
why we're married for 20 years. We balance each other out.
Exact words I used.
He's like, we're saving, we're doing this, we're doing that, and this is what I heard. None of it would have been possible without my wife. None of it. Is that an overstatement? Because that's what I heard.
No,
I don't think that's an overstatement. Because again, I didn't know there was another path, and and Sherry only knew one path. And so it took us a while, and we did move to San Diego.
Was there frustration? Were there like fights? Because my wife and I had a little bit, but I was not kind. I admit it.
Yeah. I don't necessarily remember fights. I remember...
We call them discussions.
Yeah.
Robust discussions.
I remember, how are we going to do this? If this is the path we're going to go down, like how?
So the answer is, we're going to move to San Diego.
Yeah. Right. Great
the
choice,
most expensive city
Fresh
in the
start.
country.
Yeah. So that, Pfizer bought pharmacy in Upjohn. We had a couple places we could move. We were young and married, no kids.
I love that place.
San Diego.
I've lived there.
Yeah.
It's great.
And Pfizer paid for our
relocation and all that stuff.
Relocation.
They bought our house from us
in Michigan.
And then they...
Did you guys have payments on the house too?
Oh, of course.
Of course. If you could see Dave right, I was like, I don't want to say anything.
And as soon as we were engaged, right, the house had to be bought next, right? Like,
so it wasn't even give us a breath.
That was the next step in line.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just like the expectation was, well, if you're going to be a chemist, if you're going to be a professional, you have to look like it. Yeah. And you have to get the nice car, and then you have to get the nice apartment.
This is before Zoom with the custom backgrounds where you could just make it look like it, right?
Yeah, just pretend.
For me, it was just the opposite. Like, I didn't know anything. You got to have a balance, right? Mine was like, this is a 12-year-old car. I borrowed the suit from my brother 7 years ago.
Still have those tennis shoes I used to wrestle in.
The ponies. We call them the red high-top ponies.
Yeah.
So you saw this and you just like, hey, let's go to San Diego. Makes financial sense? Or you just kind of like, hey.
Finances had nothing to do with that decision.
Okay.
Talking about 85 degrees every day.
Yeah. 72, technically.
Sorry.
I was going to say June gloom.
Yes, it's a
and
real
May
thing.
Gray.
It's a real
They're like, I'm sorry about May Gray. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's so funny because when we interviewed there, nothing but apologies. For
there were.
It was 73 degrees and people kept apologizing for the weather. And they're like, it's just so cloudy. And we literally drive a mile inland and it'd be perfectly sunny, have dinner, it's beautiful. And it was nonstop.
BMW convertible, and I was like, this is absolutely my ideal weather. There's like only 3 places on Earth that have that weather.
Right.
It has to do with like the way the wind blows from the west to the east. It's the, what do you call it? What is longitudinal, latitudinal, wherever position. It's just like, that place is amazing.
It is.
It is.
Anyway, so I digress.
So finances had nothing to do with it. We were going to have to move regardless. So we could... Ann Arbor, St. Louis, Missouri, or
San Diego.
Wow.
Man, that's a tough decision. That's really tough.
Good thing you went to college to figure that one out.
Right.
San Diego, St. Louis.
So for my family, we, at the time, we lived in Kalamazoo. That's where our house was.
Sure.
And what was that? An hour and 15 minutes away from my parents. I lived the farthest away from anybody in my family.
Ooh,
and it was
it
was a big deal for us to live there, let alone to go to San Diego. Like, I was like crushing my parents' dream.
Her parents didn't fly. Like, her dad had not been on an airplane since he got home from Vietnam. Her mom, I don't think ever had flown in her life. And so for us to move across the country, like there were some tears.
It was a big deal.
So you know what?
It was a big deal for us personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought that I would move out of Michigan.
You know,
it was never even a thought.
You know what happened to us? My dad tried to get my mom to go somewhere. And she goes, I always got to keep one foot on the ground. Says, your son works at Tupperware. We'll put some dirt in that Tupperware and you can have 1 foot on the ground at all times. Sorry, go ahead. So you moved to San Diego.
So I guess like my contribution is just like pushing back on every decision. Like, hey, I want to get a new TV. We can afford this. We make a decent amount of money
Right.
together, Dave on his own, and then the little jobs that I had. And we're still living paycheck to paycheck. Like, it was
How does that feel? Does that feel
stressful.
just wonderful? Yeah, exactly.
Like, I couldn't handle
I'm not busting
it.
your chops.
No.
I'm just like, when I don't have like so much money like on the side, it makes me just
Well,
stressed.
and that's, if I fast forward to today, so we've
very different.
been,
Frugal
debt-free,
and thoughtful.
other
and,
than our house for, probably a decade now.
Right.
And just that freedom and
How's it feel?
not
Amazing.
worrying about.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Amazing.
it is. It's just so different than wondering. I need to look at my bank account to see if I can pay this bill. That was a stressful way to live. And, if something happened, like moving to San Diego and we had to pay, we had the crazy like $300 a month HOA, to mow our
Lawn.
14 square foot lawn, and
With the zoysia grass, it doesn't really need
With the
cutting.
zoysia, is that what it's called?
but it was just,
Great.
there are always things that came up. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck, it was like, well, I guess that goes on the visa.
Well, what's the number of people in the United States who can't afford a $400 emergency?
Literally like 70% of people or more.
It's some crazy
Yeah.
number of people that can't afford $400
Yeah.
HVAC goes down or whatever.
I wouldn't be able to
Wow.
sleep, honestly.
he's-
I mean, oh my gosh, I lost a nickel. I'd be up for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
always me. So
It was really stressful. I would say
how many years?
10 years. We've been married 20, so I think about
The-
10 years is how long it took for us to really make like the decisions. Like, we are absolutely not spending anything more on credit. And then
digging out of the hole.
So
right?
how'd you guys
Yeah.
get there, though? Like, I mean, 10 years is kind of a long time. You saw the writing on the wall from, T-minus 2 years before
Yeah.
that. You're like, my life's not going to be like this. But what?
unfortunately, my parents also saw the writing on the wall, and them saving as much as they did. Like, growing up, we did not have a lot of money, and they were stressed because they didn't have the cash, but somehow they saved through all of that. And I don't really know even to this day how, and now my parents they still have no debt of any kind, and they are very generous people. And so at that time, I think maybe for our 10th anniversary, they gave us $10,000. And
$1,000 for every year. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom and Dad, just had my 32nd anniversary. $32,000. I'll do the math for you.
Right.
now we did just celebrate our 20th, and we didn't get $20,000 from them, which we were not expecting that. But they did send us a decent amount that we were
So
just like still blessed by. And I mean, we have money in our savings account. We're doing well,
yeah,
comfortable. Like,
things are going good.
The joy of life can just happen naturally.
Right.
But like them still being generous is still like, it still hits you. It still hits me. Like, that is
100% agree.
amazing that they can do that and still impact us.
Yeah. They were very
in that way.
disciplined throughout their life, right?
It's all about behaviors.
And, and now they get to do what they want with their money,
Yeah.
and
And your guys are so grateful and gracious about it too. You know what I mean? And I remember it's actually a funny story. So Christy's mom and her biological father died a long time ago. So her stepfather, they said, you guys have never asked for anything. And I'm like, I don't ask for stuff. She goes, would you please take this money? And it was like so wonderful. They were so happy about it.
I could see Ben with that, like, going,
Woohoo!
I got to pretend for a minute that I don't want it, but I don't want to pretend so well that they don't give it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Write the check now and I'll be fine. No, but
I won't cash it till tomorrow.
But that's great. But they probably didn't want to give it to you at year 1 or 2 because you're still trying.
They don't know about this guy.
They knew.
They're just going to leverage it up.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was a long process, and there was student debt, and then of course, 6 years into our marriage, I quit my job and went back to school to get an MBA. So, and we had all that planned out, right? We were going to sell our house in California. That Pfizer had subsidized the mortgage for 3 years.
Ooh, nice.
We lived there for 3 years, and we're going to sell that. The market in 2006.
Oh, right before the crash. That's gonna be
Way to go.
So we were going to make $150,000 on our house, right?
Nah, cha-ching.
And you're going to pay for school and living expenses, all of
for
that.
you.
Well, then the market started to come back to life or back to reality a little bit. So we still made
Decent
probably
money.
$75,000 on the house,
Sure.
but not $150,000. And I'd given up my job.
Sure.
know.
Honey, we should borrow some money.
Yeah. So we had
to
to.
because there was no
And
money
So
to live on.
it's like we had
because
dug
we still had
ourselves
our
out of a
mortgage
hole.
in California, so we were paying. Now we were paying the full amount
Oh,
because Pfizer's not subsidized.
Yeah, subsidy's
right.
gone.
Ouch. Whew. I get it.
With no
That was
income.
probably the hardest, roughest time.
There's a
In our
sound that goes
marriage.
along with that. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had kind of dug ourselves out of a hole
About 6 or 10 years in.
about 6 years in. Then, when I
But you
went
got
back
lucky
to
a couple
school-
times, right? I mean, like with J&J, it was J&J Upjohn with Pfizer.
Pharmacia,
Yeah.
Upjohn,
Pharmacia,
Pfizer.
Right.
Okay, sorry. But you got a little bit lucky, right? Because they got bought out. They take you down there. You got to this place that you could have the real estate grow. But that's the key, is to really take advantage of those opportunities and to continue the learning to increase your earning ability. Very big stuff.
Yeah.
So
We were taking the opportunity and enjoying it to the fullest, but we were not taking advantage
absolutely
of the opportunity.
But it turned into a great financial opportunity because it got you this place where your house grew substantially more than what your mortgage was. So you did some really good stuff. Wow. So I know we're getting pretty far into it, and I swore that I would get you out of here at a particular time.
Yeah, that's all right.
But what are some drops of wisdom that 20 years in and completely different people in regards to how you looked at money early on? Any pieces of wisdom that you can kind of share with us? Can't do it all in one night. It took you a little time.
Yeah.
You still struggle with it, but you have a couple of interesting tips.
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody.
Happy wife, happy life, baby.
I think one of the things that I try to teach our kids is, interest works for you or it works against you.
Oh, nice.
And
That's easy.
There's no middle ground there. It's either working for you or against you. And so if you buy something with a credit card, whatever you bought is going to cost way more than what you paid for it, what you think you paid for it, if you don't pay that credit card bill. And the same with a car or a boat or an RV, whatever you think, you're buying.
Yep.
I would say the one exception is a house where the value will grow over time, and that's what I feel like the biggest setback for my parents, was when my dad moved after 23 years at the first church. He had nothing. He walked away with
There's no equity
growth.
Because you're pushing, if you're at a 30-year mortgage, you could have the whole thing paid off.
Yeah, he would have been almost done, right? So interest, that's the thing.
I do like the interest works for you or against you, because I keep thinking of
It does.
You probably in
It's
your
easy.
MBA, the more advanced stuff like arbitrage.
Right.
Love arbitrage.
I love arbitrage. And it's like, well, it's kind of a weird concept, but you're using somebody else's interest to make you more interested. So maybe it's working for you in a sense.
Right.
And what we
Right.
refer to it on the show a lot is good credit and bad credit.
Yeah.
Like bad credit is stuff that doesn't grow to earn you more money over and above the interest that you pay.
Right.
And good credit is like you buy an apartment complex and you have to pay 6%, but you're earning 22%.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Good versus bad. But I love it. It works for you or against you. It's so simple.
I mean, for our kids, you know, it's a simple enough concept
Yes.
that, you know, I hope that when they get out of our house, they go to college, you know, they understand.
Kicking them out at age 16,
Right.
they better study hard.
14.
Right.
14.
You know, like when they go to college and there's that booth there with a Visa card.
Hey,
and
get
it
your
says,
credit card. Yeah.
You know, or go to the mall or Kohl's, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they say, hey, would you like to save 10%? Well, what's that 10% going to cost you?
25%.
I don't care.
And, you know, so I hope that I hope to instill that in them as just a baseline principle.
And you know, the one thing that we talk about a lot is kids aren't stupid.
Right.
They see what you do.
Yeah.
They're going to see that, you know, Dave, you know, you got probably some bad habits that they see, but they know that you're working on it. They know that you're working on it, and they know that mom and you together are making a lot of good decisions, right? So the thing is that even though you say, hey, do what I say, they're going to know and take the lead.
I love that saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And so I know some of my messages are a little confusing for my kids. I get it, but most of them are consistent. And that's a big part of it. So that's just so weird when I heard that you both were pastors and you came at it from completely different paths. I just like, this is almost, what is it in science where you have like the control group and the whatever? It's like
The placebo.
yeah, it's like, oh
Double
my
blind.
gosh, the
Right.
double blind.
Yeah.
It's like the control group is
Right.
spends a lot of money and don't, and let's see how they diverge. And it was just pretty cool to hear that.
It is. It is. It is kind of a interesting case
So
study.
they proved that hormones are stronger than interest rates.
Hormones are either working for you or working against you.
Right. Right.
But from that perspective, you know, that's pretty awesome. And anything you want to say, Sherry?
Yeah, I think just in general, you know, coming from my parents' perspective, just being generous, like it brings them joy. It
Amen.
would bring us
It
joy
really does.
to receive it. And like we try to be generous on different levels.
Sure.
At different times. And we want our kids to know like that's important. And you can't do that if you are constantly thinking in the moment and about yourself and what you
Right.
want.
And living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
Right.
We talk a
can't do
lot
that.
about financial independence and how that's actually different for every person. Some people just
Yes.
think that's, hey, I can take a vacation and not worry about it. Other people say, hey, I want to retire at 55. But in some respects, I find part of financial independence is being able to give in a way that's really meaningful for me, both from a charity perspective or a charitable perspective, but also to my kids, you know, because it's kind of fun, man. My parents, when they gave me $50, I just about died.
Yeah. Right.
Because they didn't have a lot and it meant a lot to me. But, you know, if you do something pretty substantial, help them buy their first car or whatever, that's, oh, man.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Wow. Well, thanks for being here. I'm sure you guys are going, oh my gosh, it's going to be an hour and it's going to be so tough. But after you started to relax, your first question, how you doing? Good.
I think it was great.
We're in a great, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a G word. Yeah.
Right.
But we really appreciate you guys being here and giving us a little bit of insight. And maybe we get you back and you guys think a little bit more and can share some more other insights. We really appreciate it. So
Thank you for having
Anytime.
us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Appreciate it.
And we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Cheers.